Good Lord, the chat filled up fast this morning. All right, let's do her. Good morning, everybody. Sergeant Major reminds us all it's time to register for Maine Moose Lottery. So for those of you who don't know how that works, you can get a license to hunt moose, but it's done by lottery. It's not like deer season in the South where you just go and get your license and go hunt. There's a limited number of licenses available, and I can tell you from experience, those big bastards are delicious. But if you've never encountered a moose in the wild, tell you something, they're not like deer. You're driving down a dark road in the middle of the night and a deer jumps out in front of you, you ruin that deer's day and you might need a new front end. It can be bad. It can be bad, but if you accidentally hit a moose, it didn't run out in front of you. It was standing in the middle of the road. And when you hit a deer, you hit it in the shoulder, torso, body generally. When you hit a moose, you hit it in the knees. And then both tons of that big bastard fall over on top of you and crush you. It's a very, very different creature. So, all right. So I've got a little bit of news to cover this morning first. Before I get to that, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. On Tuesday next week, I've got an early appointment. I may or may not be able to get a show out Tuesday morning next week, and I'll remind you again on Monday at the end of the show. I'll let you know whether or not I'm going to be able to pull off a show Tuesday morning, but I got to get down to the new property for the inspection on Tuesday. So, yay. That's an exciting activity that we're engaged in right now. Anyway, so the story I want to open with this morning is not a DGU. I've got a couple of those, but first, this is something that just warms my heart. And I have some things I want to talk about in relation to it. The headline is, NICS processes 1 million plus background checks for 56th consecutive month. Concealed Nation. 1 million background checks. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that 1 million guns were purchased each of those 56 months. But there is a reason that those background checks are being run. And I mean, that's what NICS is for, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. So in March of 2024, over 1.4 million National Instant Criminal Background Check System NICS checks were performed for gun sales, marking a continuous trend of exceeding 1 million checks for 56 consecutive months. 56 months! The FBI registered a total, and I hate that right there. The FBI registered a total of 2,626,000 1,068 checks for the month, with a significant portion related to concealed carry permit applications and renewals. Okay, so that says applications and renewals, so that's not all new. That's not all new gun owners, all new, but that a significant portion of that is going to be new. And this makes me very optimistic about our citizenry becoming more concerned. So, one of the concerns that I have in the arena of politics is that the Democrat wins largely because they have a talent for motivating their base. They have a talent, and they have a battlefield tactical advantage for voter registration and turning out the vote. And here's why. Conservatives tend to avoid the cities because the cities are nightmare dystopian shitholes where crime is rampant. Your likelihood of being the victim of a violent crime is much higher. Bear, I'll get to that question in just a second. The cities are nasty, expensive, and dangerous. And if you're smart, you'll stay the hell away from them. That has been true for a very long time. But it's only become truer recently. It's become even more true recently. During COVID 2020 election, one of the shady, crooked things that the Democrats did in that election cycle was ballot harvesting. And I've heard some very good arguments, very reasonable, well-reasoned, and cogent arguments that Republicans need to get on that game and get better at ballot harvesting. And I don't entirely disagree, but it's not going to do a whole lot, because what you have is, if you're going to do conservative ballot harvesting, you're going to have to at least go out to the suburbs, where you're going to door knock every house on in a golf course community, right? You're going to have to go house to house to house and knock on the doors. When you're ballot harvesting as a Democrat in the city, you're going into an apartment building, right? So you don't have to cover as much ground. The population is much more densely packed. It's much easier and more efficient to go through and get these ballots. And that is one of the best arguments for the authoritarian leftist idea of democracy. When everybody is a slave, the system is very efficient, in theory. Of course, the truth of that kind of breaks down when you come to understand that it necessarily requires productive and profitable taxpayers to fund that monstrosity. But as a system of corruption, of authoritarianism, and of election rigging, it is incredibly efficient. So the ballot chasing, ballot harvesting mechanism it does work very well for the Democrats. The Republicans have a very different battlefield that they're looking at. Pitt Danny says, we have been working with Turning Point. They have an app to go after low propensity voters. Yes, I've met the Turning Point guys you guys are working with. Great group of kids there, and they are doing the Lord's work. But again, when you're chasing Republican ballots, we're further apart. We try not to live on top of each other. We're not into the pods and the bugs, right? When you've got everybody stacked in a filing cabinet, it's much easier to thumb through the manila envelopes and find the 60 to 70% of your voting base that's still alive. I don't know if you guys are tracking on this, but there was a story this week. Let me see if I didn't pull it up. I wasn't gonna talk about it real quick, but I'll reference it real quick. Something like 20,000 dead voters. This. Let's see if I can find it. No, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go digging a little more for it because it's a brand new article. And anyway, there was a voting roll scrub this week where they found some like 23,000 voters in a month registered in 1 month turned out to be deceased on the roll, and that's just maddening. And yeah, Bear saw the article that I'm talking about, and it says it was like 33%. Now, Bear, you asked if NCIS or NICS, NICS, is used for employee checks, and Dad said yes, but I'm actually not sure about that. Let me see real quick. I thought that was done with a different system. So according to the ATF website, sick bastards, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System permit qualifies as an alternative to an NCIS, an NICS, must have a license. According to their website, it looks like it's just for FFLs. It's not just for FFLs, just for the firearms. But Dad says enlistment runs an NCIS check. Oh, he got it backwards too. NICS check as well. So I actually don't know the answer to that. But this article is talking specifically about the checks that are related to concealed carry permits, renewals, and purchases. So in this one, it says explicitly that 1.4 of those were related to gun purchases. And coupled with the recent news on just the spread of permitless carry, we are now at a point where the majority of American states have permitless carry. Now this one says that Florida has permitless carry now, and the last news I saw in Florida is they were preparing for it. Florida population, demographics, projection. Okay, so this just goes to the world population. That's not what I was looking for there. I was hoping to see. Okay, according to this, Florida does have constitutional carry now. So minimum age effective as of July 1st of last year. That okay, that just goes to the same thing. So anyway, we are now at a point that we have more permitless carry states than rogue states. And I want to be clear about that. When you say, when we're talking about the permitless carry thing, uh, people like to call it constitutional carry. But let's be clear, even in constitutional, so-called constitutional carry states, you're still having your rights infringed by the presence of the background checks, which are explicitly unconstitutional. And I'm not just talking here about the violation of your Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, but the national background check system, that is an explicit violation of your right to be secure in your person, property, and papers. It would be different if it was entirely voluntary, but it is always pseudo-voluntary as a contingency on the exercise of another right or the pursuit of another independent liberty, which means that functionally you're having your Fourth Amendment right held over you and being extorted out of another right in order to force you to surrender your Fourth Amendment right to your security, person, property, and papers. So I don't like the phrase constitutional carry in its current context, but when you look at the states that do not have constitutional carry, what you're looking at is not a state that has different laws. What you're looking at is a state that is a rogue state acting in explicit violation of the national law to which we are co-signed. It really is that simple. If your state does not have permitless carry, then your state is a criminal organization. And the victim of that crime is every citizen that has any connection or dealing with that state in any capacity without exception. So, let's do the first EGU. And I know that was 18 minutes on permitless carry and the spike in gun sales. Well, okay, not really. Okay, let me rephrase that. It's not a spike in gun sales. That's what's so awesome about it. It is a trend of, it is a long-term trend of significantly increased gun sales. 56 months, that's a trend that began under President Trump and has continued and grown throughout the Biden administration. And here's where it gives me some real optimism. I kind of got sidetracked from this, talking about the voter registration and ballot harvesting thing. The fact that the number of people seeking a carry permit and seeking to purchase a firearm is increasing steadily and substantially tells me that to at least some degree, people are waking up to the fact that something is very, very wrong, and they're legitimately concerned about the current state of the nation. All the trans issues, all the pro-immigrant garbage, all the pro-Gaza garbage that all seems to just overwhelm and permeate all of social media and the news cycle of late. It is difficult sometimes to remember that those psychopaths, those sociopaths, are still in the very small minority of people. And the average people out there, your normal workadays, whether, even the ones that have voted Democrat their whole lives, are starting to come around to the idea that there is something very, very dangerously wrong. And they're becoming concerned for their own safety, the safety of their families, the safety of their children, and the sacrosanct nature of their right to their own property and privacy. They're concerned. And we're going to see that reflect in November of this year. I'm not gonna get down a rabbit hole about election integrity on this show, but it is something that we will be discussing more and more and more. And the way to victory isn't just outvoting the other guy. It's outvoting him so substantially that you cannot hide the corruption and the graft and the criminality involved in stealing an election. That's what happened in 2020. They needed so many votes to steal that election that they were unable to do it in such a way that it wasn't obvious that that's what they had done. Otherwise, we wouldn't have even been able to notice that there was substantial corruption in the 2020 election cycle. So, first DGU, man armed with pipe breaks into house and is immediately shot by resident. Concealed nation. Okay, I just got this image, like sitting on the couch, watching TV, somebody kicks in the door, and it was like, bam, bam. Okay, keep watching TV. Just kind of relax. So Quick Draw McGraw here solved his problem before it even began. Bay City, Michigan. Michigan is not one that I usually think of when I think about, DGUs and the armed citizen, but here we go. A Bay City resident reportedly shot an individual during a purported home invasion, resulting in the suspect being hospitalized in serious yet stable condition. The incident occurred shortly before 5 p.m. on Monday in the 200 block of North Jefferson Street, where police found a 33-year-old man with 2 gunshot wounds to his torso outside the home. It's alleged the man, armed with a pipe, had forcibly entered the residence, leading to a resident shooting him. The Bay City Department of Public Safety is investigating the case and encourages anyone with information to contact them. Brandon is... Okay, that's just about the author. Okay, there... Oh, I seem to have flubbed my switch. Sorry about that. When you're talking home invasion, I tend to give a lot of benefit of the doubt to the homeowner. I really do. One, both parties can lie, but let's think about this for a minute. You're a homeowner and you want to murder someone. You've decided that there's this person that you'd like to murder. If this is a person with whom you have no connection, no communication, no association, then getting that person to your home is pretty difficult. Is a pretty difficult proposition. I mean, how do you lure a stranger to your home with the intent to murder them? Right? I'm not saying it can't be done, but it seems like a lot of moving parts when it would be so much easier to just go to where that target is and eliminate them there and then figure out your alibi. You should figure out your alibi first. But you see what I mean? That's those are the... Okay, Sergeant Major makes a good point there, but then you're talking about not targeting a particular individual, and in that case, like there'd have to be some kind of, like, the Craigslist thing leaves a trail that leaves a paper trail that an investigator is likely to find. That's a good way to get yourself caught. That's why the Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, those kind of robbery traps don't tend to happen on private property. They tend to happen in the parking lots or behind shady looking what do you call the nearly abandoned strip malls that you see in the ghetto, stuff like that. So I tend to give the homeowner a great deal of benefit of the doubt in one of these cases. It just seems to make sense to think about it that way. And then I've got one more. Let's see if we can... Good God, what do we have? There we go. spin that up for you a little bit so y'all can see it better. Police say man was shot by homeowner at Wenatchee residence. Where's Wenatchee? I'm not sure where Wenatchee is. I know I've heard that the name of that city before, but anyway, police say man was shot by homeowner. Oh wait. Okay, I got some chit chat going on over here. Unverified Bear and Steve are talking about firearms in the UK. Bear says it's easy to get a license. Steve asked mostly shotguns and air rifles, and Unverified Bear says red deer are very large, so high caliber rifles too. No handguns, no full auto. See, the handguns thing, Bear, over here, we carry handguns, right? A handgun, you can hunt with a handgun. I've personally seen His Majesty bust out the what was that big old pistol you had, old man? But great big old pistol, monorail of justice revolver, and blast a target dead center at an extraordinary distance. It's doable, but rifles are for hunting. Handguns are for self-defense. The 44 mag, yeah, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful, beautiful occasion that. But yeah, we definitely carry handguns for self-defense here in the U.S. And that a large part of the reason for that is, as much as I love my rifle and as much as I prefer to do my warfighting with a rifle, they're cumbersome. It really is that simple. Rifles are cumbersome to carry. And so we tend not to. But yeah, this was a great moment in hanging out with my old man. That was a long damn shot. And yes, I threw the little explosion there for chuckles, but he hit that son of a bitch. Honestly, I threw the little After Effects explosion on that clip because once he fires the round, at that distance, it's hard to see it hit the target. And I had not had the foresight that day to set up a camera on the target itself. But yeah, that was 100 meters target with a 44 mag, and I mean, dead nuts. Great shot. So, and Unverified Bear says that is why we can't have them. Exactly. Your government has decided to take the full monopoly on violence, and that is why we have the Second Amendment in the United States, because a government that does not fear the armed people will incarcerate citizens over Nazi pug videos. We know. We've seen them do it. So, let me get back to the Wenatchee story, and then I got to wrap this up and go to work. Police say man was shot by homeowner at Wenatchee residence. Wenatchee police are investigating a shooting just after midnight Friday morning in the 300 block of South Wenatchee Avenue. Officers say a 50-year-old man was shot by a homeowner who said the man tried to enter the residence. Police Sergeant Nathan Hahn says they haven't determined yet whether a crime was committed. Obviously, a homeowner has the ability to protect themselves if they feel like they're in danger or threatened, says Hahn. But in this case, we just don't have enough information to be able to definitively say what exactly happened. Man was taken to Confluence Health Hospital Central Campus with a gunshot wound to his abdomen. Police said the injuries did not appear to be life-threatening. They say it does not appear the homeowner knew the man, who is a Wenatchee resident. No charges have been filed at this time. Anyone with information about the shooting is asked, blah, blah, blah. The shooting took place at 10:05 a.m. on Friday. All 4 local law enforcement agencies were called to the scene initially. So, I gotta assume, and I know that, it's a stretch without the explicit statement, but according to this reporting, according to the homeowner, the man attempted to enter the residence, attempted to force entry into the residence, right? Said the man was shot by a homeowner who said the man tried to enter the residence. Okay, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that anyone claimed that he tried to force entry, but unless the homeowner in this story is just a totally unreasonable asshole, one assumes, and I think reasonably, that we're not talking about somebody who walked up and knocked on the door. Right? When you talk about trespassing laws and what does and does not constitute burglary, right? Anybody under the law in the United States, and the exact language varies from state to state, but basically it works like this. If it is a time of day during reasonable business hours, any person can approach your door and knock and wait for a reasonable amount of time, an unspecified reasonable amount of time for an answer before leaving without breaking any law. They're not unlawfully present, they're not trespassing, etc. Right? Even if you've got the property posted no trespassing, it gets a little squirrely if somebody walks straight up to the front door. It's hard to say trespassing if somebody walks straight up to the front door and knocks on the front door. That's an attempt to make contact, right? Now, after a reasonable amount of time has passed, then there's the reasonable assumption that they're loitering on the private property. And don't take this as real legal advice, but I'm saying all this to get to the homeowner is claiming that the 50-year-old man who was shot attempted to enter. Right? Now, attempting to enter a private residence, once you have entered a private residence unbidden, you are engaged in the act of burglary. Probably. And there are some caveats that go with that. For example, if you have a key, right, even if you stole the key, until it's proved that the key was stolen, the having of a key implies, in a legal sense, permission, explicit permission to access the property. And that's for like contractors and stuff. I often go to shoot pictures of houses where the home is vacant. And you'll see the First Amendment auditors, and they'll talk about, I can shoot anything I can see for public, and that's true. When I'm shooting a home, when I'm shooting a business, even, I'm entering a building. I'm entering someone else's property. Now, when I do that, I have a combination key code or an electronic key or a physical key that has been provided to me along with a work order to do the job. So that by itself constitutes authorization to access the property. I've had this conversation with more than a few cops at this point because, neighbors see some random dude in a Hawaiian shirt come walking up to a house that, okay, I've got the camera on my shoulder, but not everybody understands apparently that, if you want to sell a house, you got to market the son of a bitch. But that's very different than walking up to a house unbidden without a key or a work order or any kind of documentation, at all, and just entering. That's a very different thing. So, this one, again, I got to throw it to the homeowner because you got to have a place that you feel safe. You do. We make fun of the lefties and the Dems for their whole safe space thing, but you do need a safe space. That doesn't mean that you have a right to go out and establish safe spaces anywhere you want to and then just exclude people from those spaces by, decree without some transaction or legal precedence. What the fuck are you talking about? A 16-inch 1911? I missed something here. Does that Hey Steve, do you think that shoots 45 AARP? Okay, now you've completely derailed my train of thought, and I'm just going to switch straight to the safety brief. Hey, we're going into the weekend. Y'all be safe out there. Don't drive drink. Don't fry bacon naked. And, kind of watch where you're going. Keep calm and carry one. We love you, and I will see you on Monday. Yeah, the 45 AARP is not my joke originally, but I had to share it now that I had an opportunity to do so. I am a big fan myself of the Lord's Caliber. It's a very effective round, and the introduction of the 45 ACP into the organized crime battle space in the 1920s is what gave us my favorite weapon, my favorite daily carry, which is the 357 Magnum, which we have because a 36 Special just couldn't penetrate the steel doors on the Model Ts, and the gangsters were using them as basically shield plates while they let rip with their Chicago typewriters. And the Thompson M1A1 is, it is a railroad of injustice that just sprays an absolute hail of fuck you into anything it touches. I may need to go shoot something soon. No, Steve, I don't carry a 30. I didn't say 36 Special. I said 38 Special. But anyway, y'all be safe out there. We love you, and we will see you on Monday. Okay, so Alex says the 45 is like its owner, old, fat, and slow. Exactly. And that's why I don't want to have to chase you. Y'all be safe.